first item of business will be the roll call.
Vice Mayor Watts.
Here.
Councilwoman Knappel. Absent. Councilwoman Scott.
Here.
Councilman Ebel.
Nope.
Councilman Katie.
Here.
Councilman Reese.
Here.
And City Attorney Moore.
Here.
We're going to do one quick item before we do the minutes, and then Mr. Warner. Mr. Bass, would you come up, please? I'll get this open. We figured since you have hung around this place, we couldn't get rid of you for 20 years.
No.
that
Nobody
we-
asked me to leave.
So we owed you this beautiful plaque, which says, presented to David Bass in recognition of his years of dedicated service as city attorney for the town of Carthage and its citizens. And it was April 4th, April 11th now, on behalf of current and former mayors and aldermen for whom you have served. Thank you for your great
Well,
service
thank
to
you.
our city.
Appreciate it. It's been real. Thank you. I've enjoyed my service, but all things, good things must end, and this did. And if you apply yourself in 22 years,
Thank you.
well, thank y'all very much.
Thank you, David.
And with that note, we do have our new attorney, Mr. Todd Moore. We'd like to welcome him, and he'll speak to us during his mayor's, his attorney's report. The next item, we'll do minutes, and then we'll have Mr. Warner speak to you. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? We had two different sets of minutes from last time.
Make a motion, we approve.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. The next item, we're going to jump up in line. Mr. Warren is going, Mr. Jerry Warren is going to speak to us about the two projects, the sewer line, portion of the sewer line on Spring Street and the portion of the water line on 3rd and Main. Yes, okay. And we had packets with information about this. Did all of you get to look through that by chance? He had left us some information about it. I just made copies of what you sent us to.
And Mayor, thank you for allowing me to speak, and actually, thank you for moving us up, because I do have another meeting that's scheduled tonight.
Okay.
For these two projects, the downtown water project was to improve the water lines in the downtown area. Part of that was also to try to help increase the pressure and help get the size of the water lines up so that we have adequate pressure and flow for fire protection in the downtown area, because there are a number of older lines that are of smaller size there, and the part of this project was to help that situation. That project was approved by the council for us to actually do the application, work on the plans back a couple of 3 years ago. So we've been working on the plans. We got those submitted to the state in 2018, and that had been in, I think, maybe probably about last April or May. We've been waiting on some word from SRF, kind of the same general principle on the sewer on Spring Street. That's an I&I improvement project that had been identified previously. There are also other projects that we'd applied for funding for previously, but that funding was not obtained from other grant groups. What we have been waiting for, we had submitted the plans for both of these projects to TDEC, State Revolving, back earlier last year. We had received some information, and the town received this information in November, that there was a funding shortage that needed to be addressed. We were working with State Revolving. We had discussed this with the previous administration and with the city recorder on the financials. We had been going through the audits because when that letter was sent out, the 2018 audit had not been finalized. And when that sufficiency letter was sent out, they said that there would need to be some additional funds raised. So what we were trying to do was to coordinate with the city and the state to see if we could reduce those revenue requirements. So while that was going on, we were kind of waiting, passing information back and forth to the state. They requested copies of the new audit when that was done. We provided that in, I think, January. We had been going back and forth with a lady at State Revolving named Dustin Green. She's in their financial section. We'd also had meetings with Andrea Fenwick at SRF, Leslie Gillespie Marthaler, and Felicia Freeman, who are also over different sections at State Revolving. And we were waiting to hear the results because our work with Dustin was to try to reduce the amount of financials that would be needed. The last communication I had with Dustin was about the end of January, 1st of February. Then we kept getting questions and we were trying to answer those questions, and my answer was, we're waiting on State Revolving, because I was. Now, I found out last week that on April the 4th, that there had been some earlier meetings with State Revolving personnel and the mayor, that State Revolving had been told that the city was not seeking that funding. So we were a little bit confused, and we asked a few more questions, and I talked to Felicia Freeman again, I guess it was last Thursday, and she confirmed that there was a discussion between the mayor and State Revolving. And in fairness to State Revolving, they work with the city. And our contracts are also with the city. But they don't step into that. And I appreciate that. So what we found out was we've been trying to get information and working to help reduce the funding requirements. But apparently what we were unaware of was that the State Revolving folks had been told that that funding was no longer wanted. So I guess that's my summary report to the council. I found out about that right before the scheduled council meeting last week. I came to that meeting. Obviously there wasn't a meeting, so it's been rescheduled for tonight. I will be glad to try to answer any questions that I can answer or provide additional information. I believe that most of what we have, the work that we have done, copies of that has been provided. Copies of our contracts have been provided. Those are all on file at the city. If there's any questions, I'll try to address them.
I'm just to clarify, the earlier meeting, because they came by here, they were going around different little towns to meet all the new people to talk about.
Yes, ma'am. We tried to schedule that meeting.
Well, if I could finish.
Yes, ma'am.
What we discussed is the fact that there were some new loans available that had a really almost 100% forgiveness rate, and I was waiting for you to come back to us on a couple different occasions. Also, we met with our supervisor of sewer and some other people just to find out what was happening with these loans. And I know you kept saying you're waiting to hear, but then I was getting other information from TDEC that back in this November of 2018, they said, well, you can't do that unless you raise your revenue $136,000 each year.
Well, let me help clarify that, Mayor, if I may.
That was, they're honest, and when they mailed me this, that was the first I even heard of that. I didn't know we were supposed to raise our revenue.
That information was provided to the city back in November, And I was unaware that you did not have that
I was
information.
not here then.
Well, it was provided to the city and the mayor at that time.
Okay. Did they decide to go ahead and raise the revenue? Because I don't know.
No, ma'am, they did not.
Okay.
What we were working on was we were talking to the financial section at State Revolving because those revenue requirements, we felt like were probably not correct because the 2018 audit had not been finalized. As I said earlier, when the 2018 audit was finalized, that was provided to State Revolving. They also came back and had other subsequent questions. They being Dustin Green, the financial section person that I was dealing with. Dustin wanted information on the leak protection program. We also provided additional information on the city budget that we coordinated. What we were trying to do was to reduce the amount of funding that would be needed so that we could get that number either down or make it go away so that then we could get with you and the council to see if a subsequent rate increase or other revenue increase were needed.
I guess I just had no idea any of this conversation was going on. This is the first I've heard of that you've been in conversation without my knowing it to see if we could increase the revenue. I'm not sure. I'm a little confused.
Well, when I had indicated to you previously we were waiting on SRF, we were continuing to talk to SRF that whole time. I'm sorry if that was misunderstood.
What was the
Yes,
date?
sir.
What was the date that they told you that we were no longer on line with the grant?
What I was told in my conversation last Thursday, April the 4th, was that they were given that instruction on, I believe it was February the 7th.
So February 7th is when this was canceled.
That's what I was told,
Okay.
yes.
I'm sorry, who told you? Because
Miss Felicia Freeman.
It wasn't that it was canceled. They told us it never happened, so I'm a little confused.
Well,
I did
Mayor,
not know this conversation was going on between
I am merely
you and-
relaying the information that I was given.
If we go back to these meeting minutes from last month, I had specifically asked about this going on the 3rd Avenue and Main Street waterline project, which I know you weren't here. This was canceled on the 7th, and this happened on this meeting. How come we weren't made aware on March 7th that
I did not
this has been
cancel
canceled?
anything. That's why I'm confused. My conversations with them was that there was nothing that went forward. That's what this letter from November, in fact, I did not even know this existed until I finally called and said, could you please help me find out what's going on, because I don't seem to be getting, because you had asked, I said, can you help us know what's going forward? And that's when she sent us this letter saying it didn't go forward because you would have had to have raised the revenue $136,000, and no one ever got back to them saying that's what you wanted to do. So that's, I'm confused.
Mayor, can you remind me what date you took office in November?
The 20th?
Okay, so this was dated November 8th. So the prior mayor would have had less than a week to respond. Wouldn't it have been your
I
responsibility
had
to
no
follow
idea
up on
this even
this?
existed. No one forwarded this to me. The only time I found out about this was when I can tell you when, if I look at my computer, when I,
But
That-
wouldn't it be
that
your
letter-
responsibility to find out if there was outstanding business that needed to be taken care of?
this did not exist in our files or anywhere. That's what I'm saying. The only time I got this letter is when I called TDEC to say, can you send me any information that would indicate where we are with this? And then that's what they sent me, this letter. So
Were you not aware that we had applied for this grant?
yes, I knew that we had, because we've been going back and forth for 2 or 3 months about it. And every time we asked Mr. Warren, he said, yes, it's in the works, but
I know that I've personally brought this up at every meeting.
I
for
know
the
he
3rd
did, and
May.
that's why I kept asking him.
So
about
does
it.
this letter doesn't cancel the grant?
This
This
letter
letter just says we don't have the funding, which is what
Well,
they
it's not a
went
grant,
and they
it's a loan. It's
the
a
loaner.
We're
I'm sorry, I
loaning.
apologize. This letter just says that we don't have the funding ready for it, which they were reapplying for. So what happened on
I'm
February
fine-
7th?
I'm fine with that, and you can reapply for it. If you wanted it these terms, there are better terms, we could reapply for.
What happened on February 7th that changed
I have
this?
no idea what you're talking about, February
Did you
7th.
meet with Felicia Freeman on February 7th?
I would have to go look at my records. They came through this whole area meeting with everyone. And in fact, Dawn called me that morning and said they were in the area. I said, well, I'm tied up this morning. She said, well, then you'll have to go to Nashville to meet. And we didn't want to have to go down there, so I just called her and I said, can you reschedule this? And she said, we're still in the area, we'll drop by. So they just dropped by as a courtesy. Michael was here with me. We talked to them for a while. I don't remember them mentioning anything about conversations about this in that whole meeting.
What were the
That's
grant?
the first part of it, I don't know.
Were the
I
grant
mean, there was no
writer?
conversation at all about,
Was the grant writer and the engineer invited to the meeting?
they weren't, what do you mean? They just stopped by. It was not.
The grant writer who
It
wrote
was
the
not a
grant.
planned meeting. They stopped by, like they were stopping by everywhere in this area.
So it wasn't
I'm
planned.
fine with you going forward with this. If you want to reapply, I think there are better terms in this loan right here.
Well, ma'am, I can tell you, in my opinion, it's going to be very difficult to get better terms. Plus, we're basically going to have to start over if we reapply. The term to apply for state revolving to get on the priority ranking list for 2019,
We're on the priority. We've already put ourselves on that.
I understand that you have submitted a subsequent application
No,
for about
I-
$400,000 to the priority ranking list.
No, we just asked to be put on. You don't have to have one of these things to get on the priority. You can just put yourself on it.
But you have to have a dollar amount and a monetary amount to do that, and I believe that's been done, but we didn't do that, so I can't speak to
So
that.
what would you like to do, Mr. Warren?
We're
I'd be
here at
glad to help you.
the
What is it you want to
pleasure of
do?
the council and the city. I mean, we just would like to continue with the work that we were hired to do. We have these projects, the downtown water and the I&I, that I will be glad
Okay, so what
to
do we need?
communicate with State Revolving
What-
to see if these projects are still viable and we can still obtain this funding.
And are we willing to raise our revenue $136,000 a year, which is
I can't-
$11,000 a month to do this?
Did something happened on February 7th, and apparently you're not aware of this, but there was a meeting on February 7th between you and
And where do you get that information?
Felicia. It's public record.
It's public record? Where?
Look it up. I mean, it's public record.
So
Okay.
stop
Did
highlighting.
you or not have a meeting with Felicia Freeman on that day? And on that day, something changed to where we no longer have the grant.
No, that's
Okay.
not correct.
That's
No.
not correct. Okay.
When they were here talking with me, I just basically wanted to know, they were here to give us information about the new, in fact, they have a whole new set of loans. These are not grants, these are loans. You can get I-9 loans now because they're trying to help little towns for 100% principal reduction, which is a wonderful thing to have.
So something just happened. It just happened to be the same day. That's the same day that
I have
we
no
stopped
idea-
getting our grants.
No.
Or started
I have
getting
no
something
idea what
wrong.
you're talking about, Cole. Nothing happened on that day to stop anything. They came by to tell us about these new loans that were available with 100% principal forgiveness. Yes.
So just to circle the wagons, the loan, revolving loan,
Yes, sir.
they are saying right now we do not have this grant, that we do not have this loan anymore.
What I was told was that they were told in February that and I quote this from my notes when I was talking with Leslie Gillespie, Martha Luck, and Felicia Freeman. The mayor told them to hold or halt all projects. That was in a meeting on February the 7th.
And may I ask when you talked to them? What date did you talk to them?
I talked to them on April the 2nd,
April 2nd.
and I talked to Felicia again on April the 4th.
And what did they tell you again?
As I said, the mayor told them to hold or halt all projects at that time.
And who were can you rename those names again? It was Felicia Freeman.
Felicia Freeman
Okay.
and Leslie Gillespie Marthaler. I can try to spell that, but I probably won't get it right. Leslie is the new director. Felicia is basically the technical director at State Revolving. We've worked with them. Well, Leslie is new. Felicia has been with the program for several years.
So if the council were to vote tonight to move forward with these loans as we had decided 2 years ago, you could get in touch with the state and let them know that the council wants to move forward.
Yes, ma'am, if that is the will and the vote of the council, which it was 2 or 3 years ago, then I can go back and talk to Felicia and Leslie and the other individuals there to see if that is still a viable option and to see if the financial requirements have changed, and then I can report back to y'all as to what those requirements are, if they have been reduced, if they're still the same. But if we only do 1 or 2 or whatever projects, if we reduce the amount, that may change the financial requirements. But I can't say that for certainty until I talk to them. I would like to say Dustin, the lady that I was working with there and talking with, what I found out, because I had not heard back from Dustin since like early February, she actually had a serious health issue and she was out. So that's why I called Leslie and Felicia, because I was just trying to find out what was going on. It's not unusual sometimes for state agencies to take a while to respond. We deal with them all the time. But we were getting a lot of questions, so I just wanted to be able to answer those questions.
I do have one other, because I do remember now I can look this up in my computer. I did send you a copy of this
Yes, ma'am.
when I got it, and I asked you about this and to tell us about this, and you didn't at any of the meetings, because I was curious why I didn't know. Again, this was brand new to me when I received it, and that's why I sent it to you, to find out what was this about.
Yes, ma'am, and I got a copy of the letter when it was originally sent.
Yes.
Back in November.
Right.
And I understood that letter, it had went to the previous mayor, so I kind of assumed it was here in the files at the city. When you sent me the other copy, that was before the last council meeting, that I couldn't make it to the meeting to answer these questions there.
Well, I think I sent it to you earlier than that, because when, I had no idea about this, and when I asked them to please send me any indication of what was going on with these, because I'd like to see this go forward too. I don't want to stop it. But if they sent this, and when I saw we would have to raise it to $136,000, that's why I sent it to you and said, can you explain this to me?
Yes, ma'am, and that's what I'm trying to do, because what we tried to do while we were talking with State Revolving, which was our role, that's part of what our job is to help to try to reduce the amounts on this and to try to coordinate this. Previously, we've done rate reviews and rate studies for the city, and we were trying to help reduce that amount so that then I could give you a favorable report. While that was going on, then apparently some other things took place that I didn't know about. I didn't know Dustin was going to be out on sick leave, and there may have been other conversations according to what people have told me. That's the best I can tell you.
I think for the sake of time, like you were saying, I'd say we need to make a motion to get this going again and see if we can save it, because apparently there's a difference between the administration here and two people, Felicia and Leslie, are saying two different. They're saying that the administration told them to stop it. The administration saying they didn't tell them to stop it. But if Mr. Warren is ready to go fight for this, I mean, let's get going. This is a safety issue. This is a business issue. This is something that is hurting our downtown area. It needs to be done. And
I don't disagree with you, Cole. My only question is, can we get a better deal than $136,000 every year we're going to have to raise?
These are funded loans that we've been approved for. We just have to finish the process.
No, you
The
haven't been
loans you're.
approved.
we were approved
We
in
have the funding
2017.
letter.
We
They
approved.
provided us the notice of funding. The
But
loans
may
you're
I-
talking about, we haven't even applied for and
May
probably
we
won't
ask,
get.
if,
We were approved on October 24th and 31st of 2017.
No, you
We
were-
received a notice of funding for these projects.
no.
Am I
it said-
correct on that?
It said, this is what you need to do to get that funding. It was not an approval of funding, if I'm correct on that.
It tells you that you receive the notice for the funding, and then you start through the process. We
It's not
don't
that-
have the funding
you don't
in
have the
place
funding.
today because we have to go through all the steps. State Revolving has changed. They used to be more of a rear-loaded program that you applied for everything, then you could kind of take your time, you worked on the plans, you had everything approved up front. Now, what they do is, We literally have to do all of the preliminary engineering work. We have to do plans and specs. We submit all that, they review that, they go through the environmental reviews, and that's been done on these two projects in question. Then they go through the financials to see what the financial requirements are. But yes, if it is the will of the council, we will be glad to go back and talk to them and see what we can do to try to help coordinate that, if that's possible. In fairness to the mayor, if there are better rates, we will ask for them. We will fight for y'all. We work for the city of Carthage. Our goal is to help you get improved infrastructure in town. That's part of our job. So yes, we will be glad to do that for you if that's what y'all wish.
I'll make a motion, we proceed. That you proceed and find out what we can do.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So, just to be clear, yes?
No, may I ask you, just,
Yes, sir.
I've got a copy of one contract, I think it's for another project, the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes, sir.
But does the city have copies of contracts for both of these other projects as well?
They should all be in the city files. If they're not, I happen to have a copy here. I'll be glad to give you.
That'd be great. I just wanted to make sure that there were agreements as far as.
And just for clarification, that is proceeding forward with the Third Avenue Waterline projects and the I&I, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct, yep.
Okay.
Is there any stipulation about if we don't find a better, that if we are gonna raise that 136,000, how is that?
Well, we'll have to vote on that
It'll
anyway.
have to come back to
Okay,
the
okay.
council anyway.
Okay.
So,
There it is.
Okay.
Got my paper
All right.
across it. Thank you.
thanks.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, our next item is, thank you, Mr. Warren, for coming
Thank
out.
y'all.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Okay, our
Bids over 2,000.
bids over 2,000, yes.
I didn't get a chance to scan these to you like I said I would, and I apologize, but there's the bills if anybody.
Itemized list, whatever. Got it,
So you
buddy.
should have the list in your packets.
Do we have a list, you can
And
read
it should be in
it,
your packet right there.
or you wanna
Yeah.
read them all?
Quick Consultants, $4,125 for project management for the ARC grant, which is the new water tank on Turkey Creek. And the rest of it is insurance premium for PE Partners, formerly TML, $10,788.50 for payment number 4 of liability insurance, $13,547.75 for the fourth installment of workers' comp insurance premiums, and $7,054.25 for the fourth installment of buildings and property insurance.
Okay, do I have a motion, do you want to talk about these individually, or do you have a motion for all of these?
I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Second.
You're too late for
No,
second.
just a second.
I'm sorry. too late.
I agree with you. 30.
Good try, though.
30.
Okay, any discussion on this? Okay, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay, the next item of business, okay, quick mayor's report. We have facade grants. 9 people have been awarded on the local level the facade grants for a total of 11 buildings downtown. From here, they move forward to the state level to get approval from the historical commission. If that all pans out, we've got contracts in place, and we'll start moving forward with some lovely facade improvements downtown, including some new awnings that should look really great downtown. Yes, sir.
Got one question. Somebody came up to me today and said that, air level that we've gone with on the facade grant, uses a particular palette of color. And in my opinion, and what I'd heard before, we had not, so I just want clarification whether
Yes,
we had or not.
and
It
Mr.
is a pattern, yeah.
Yes.
We're cool.
Okay, we do have a palette, okay.
Yeah.
It was cheaper to do it that way.
All right.
Yeah. And,
The deal was.
there was a limited pool of money But we were able to take care of most of the people who applied, which will be really nice, I think, for downtown. There'll be awnings and some doors and windows will be included
Paint.
also.
Paint.
And some painting, yes, it'll be very nice. I think you'll see an improvement. The only other announcement is tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, we have Ball State's computer workshop free at the chamber. So everybody come out and learn how to use those computers and cell phones and all that good stuff, okay? Now we have our first city attorney's report from Mr. Moore.
This will be very short.
all
I typically wouldn't have a report for you unless you tell me there's something that you want me to report on, and I'm glad to do that. If you have questions and want me to relay those to the council during meetings, just let me know, and I'm glad to do it. Otherwise, I'll communicate it to you via email. Glad to answer questions. Obviously, if there is something, threatened litigation or a particular item at the General Assembly or legislative level, I'm glad to report that. I don't know what David has done historically, but if there's something he's done that you want me to continue doing or something else, let me know. But otherwise, I'll probably not have a report.
Thank you. Welcome.
That works for y'all.
Good enough.
Thank you. Glad to have you aboard. Thank you. Okay, department reports. The water plant, Ms. Teresa?
Yes, ma'am. I don't have a lot, just that the CCR, the water quality report, came out in the Courier last week, and it's on the website, Facebook. Our goal is to get it to as many of the customers as possible, so that's what we try to do. And our number is on there. If anybody has questions or concerns, we encourage them to call. So
Thank
that's
you.
all I have this month.
Thank you very much. Next is the sewer report, Mr. Steve.
I've got one thing I'd like to bring before the council, and see if I can get your approval. Ricky and I are wanting to upgrade our security gate. We would like to have something similar to what Teresa's got, the electronic gate, that'll help us when we're having to haul the sludge during the summer. That way, if there's only one person there, they can keep the gate open and closed. We did get bids on it, and we got 3 bids. The lowest bid was with Ace Fence Company out of McNimble, and it was $8,554. We would be doing the electric in-house. It won't be solar paneled like hers. We're gonna run electric to it, but that would help us on the security part and not being going off. With having to do the lift stations, come to City Hall and trying to haul the sludge in the summer, a lot of times the plant's nobody there, and it would help us keep the gate closed. So anyway, I want to ask y'all's approval for that. That's all I got.
And we, since it's a special call, we couldn't vote or anything tonight, but we've got a regular meeting coming up, and we'll put that on there.
That's fine. I'll bring it up again.
It'll be just a couple of weeks. so
Or I can
we'll be
get you a
fine.
copy of the quotes,
Okay.
whatever you want.
All right, thank you very much.
That's it.
Our police department, is Chief Davis out there?
I recognize.
Okay,
I don't have anything to report. Everything's going good, so.
wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
for
The
your
drug
report.
take-back event.
All right.
Huh?
The drug take-back event.
Yes, we do have a drug take-back event coming up on, I believe it's April 27th at Walmart. We will be participating in that, and I've contacted Miss Barber. She's gonna be helping us as well. So if you guys have any kind of medication or anything you need to get rid of, by all means, you can use this one out here, or you can take it down to Walmart. We'll be out there that day, I think 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, so.
Great, thank you. This Saturday?
It's April 27th,
Oh, okay.
I believe.
April, okay.
I think, yeah, April 27th.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, how about fire department? Chief, there he is, yes. Hi.
Submitted a report that I do every month. Where did I understand you can't bring up any purchases at this week?
Not at this special call, but we can in a
Yeah.
couple weeks, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you for what you do. Appreciate it. Public Works?
Everything's good.
Wonderful. You got everything running just like it should. That's wonderful. Thank you, thank you. City report, Mr. Michael.
The actuary has released their annual report for our Tennessee Consolidated Retirement. And basically what that means is they meet and evaluate basically what they recommend our minimum rate contributions should be based on what we're doing, what we have going on with people retiring and all that stuff. Currently we contribute 9.09%. And with this release, which kind of caught me off guard, their minimum employer rate suggestion is 5.68. I would not recommend going that low myself. My suggestion for what it's worth would be to keep it at 9.09 at least for another year, to see what their study is next year, because that's drastically lower than what it was last year. But in the event someone were to retire or something, that could affect us negatively if we lower it too low. So,
Have y'all had a chance to look over that he sent?
yeah, I didn't know that everybody was sure.
Table list or-
Yes, just put it on another, because this is just a report for information, so I
Right,
put it
right,
on
okay.
another
So
regular meeting
we'll
for approval.
table this to the next meeting where we can have a discussion and vote then.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Everybody has that material, right?
If you don't, just let me know, I'll send it to you again.
Okay, going into our unfinished business, the use of our water-free property, did Mr. Bass leave out there? He was gonna let us know if they wanted. Well, we'll table that till next time too, but the Habitat, I think they had a vote on that. He'll let us know about that. Okay, great. Anybody here for the no parking?
Is that Water Street property, is that gonna be moved to next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So they were supposed to be, what, Tuesday night, I think?
Yeah, it was. Is anyone here to speak to the parking on Fisher Avenue?
Chaz is here.
Did you want to speak?
Okay.
I think we tabled it. We can, yes, sir.
I had several, not to dispel or what you're questioning anything, but I had several residents of Fisher Avenue come to me. I didn't approach them, they came to me and said that they said they didn't see that it was a big issue because it was a very small amount of time. I personally, 2 Sundays ago, witnessed a similar situation where somebody had pulled in and there's nowhere to go and everything. I'm wondering if we could not compromise and the first parking spot on each side of Fisher for now, put up no parking signs to at least give a way to pull in and go from there, and we'll work from there and then see where we're going. And I've also had other people coming up to me telling me that at the end of Jackson, the end of Carmack, and I wouldn't think Carmack would be as big of an issue because North Baptist, because they're back a little further, but that we, in Mercedes, that we put a no parking for the first parking spot on Main Street.
Okay.
And that's from people in the community.
Talking about on Main Street, not
On Main
side
Street.
streets.
Coming out from Fisher, plus on Fisher, on Main Street at Mercedes, and then on Jackson Avenue, on Main Street at Jackson Avenue. That's what's been requested to me.
That sounds good.
And start with to see how it goes.
Yeah, and where you approached your pastor and she announced it, that has helped tremendously.
Okay. But there's still an issue there because I witnessed it myself 2 Sundays ago.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
So should we table this till next time, or do you want to make a motion to the effect, or?
Does anybody want to discuss it further? Or you want to talk to the constituents and see and
We can do that. We can put it on for next month and have,
I've had several constituents just voice concern, or there's been about 3 or 4 of them that voice concern over it. But I mean, if it's a step in the right direction,
So give it a try.
just
Give
giving
it
this
a
a
try.
shot. It's a step approach. I don't see any.
then I'll make a motion that we do that.
okay.
You're saying the first 2 parking spots?
The
on
first
each
one
side?
on each side.
First one on each side?
Yeah.
Do you feel that would be a good?
I believe it's a good
Okay.
start.
Good
I
start.
like Mr. Slam, do that, and let's see how it goes.
I'll second your
Wait,
motion.
could you put it in lane so we write it down? So we
I'll
can-
make a motion that we put no parking signs for the first parking spots on Main Street on each side of Jackson Avenue, Mercedes, and Fisher, and the first parking spots on each side of the road on Fisher at Main Street.
Okay. Did you get that, Michael?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to repeat that.
Okay, I'm gonna say it 3 times quick.
Trying to get them help.
All right, do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No? Okay,
Thank you.
all right, we'll give it a try. Thank you, sir. All right, Oh, and I don't, is anyone here in the community to speak to that, to what's happening out there? I know they are using bottle rockets, they've told me that. I actually went out there one night. I saw them fire them and all these birds went everywhere, so it seems to be working because they're driving, I don't know where they're going with them, but they're driving them out of there.
My house, probably.
Probably that's where they are, in Will's backyard, okay. Okay, then let's move on to, we don't have anyone here about the property maintenance inspector either. New business, we do have someone
Just
from
like
the
to
museum.
go back on
I'm
property
sorry.
maintenance, if we can discuss something. I had an idea on that, actually.
Okay, sure.
Do we know if perhaps Lynn could just educate a group of residents on property maintenance and do a committee of residents to enforce property maintenance rather than hiring a professional?
That's an idea.
Good idea.
We could ask him to. would do
That way the community is involved, they can
Right.
set up their own parameters for what they want to see enforced.
Sure.
And then if there is a situation, we can always turn it over to the attorney to handle any, severe problems.
Would you be willing to talk with Mr. McHenry, kind of work out a committee to do that? Sure. Okay.
Be a community committee.
Community committee.
They'd have to bring all their concerns to us first, though.
Right.
Right.
I mean, they could probably meet on a regular basis, find any issues. We could authorize them to send out form letters. And then if anything beyond
Is there
that, it
legality
could go through
in doing
the
that?
city.
Yeah, I think that, again, as long as they're working within the ordinances that are on the books, or if they have suggestions for amendments to them, but I have seen that work in other places where you basically inform, if you see a violation, the committee will go out and inform the property owner and try to work with them to get it fixed before you send out a citation, bring them into court, and that seems to
Sort of like a good neighbor thing going out.
I like that idea because it gives it's more voluntary. It gives people time to adjust, and it's not as forceful. And it's also the community coming and telling someone to do something as opposed to the government. And I think people are going to be more receptive to making changes if they, instead of being mean, be nice.
Exactly.
So,
Okay.
I like that idea.
Just need a way to make sure it doesn't run rampant, though, would be the only thing.
So
Think-
do we need a motion or just appoint a committee with Ms. Scott for chair? How would you?
Yeah, I think if someone wants to just start the process of creating a committee that can be ratified
How
by
about if I
the council at
appoint-
a future meeting.
Councilman Scott, and you can bring on the committee whomever you choose for that in conjunction with. Yes, sir.
That's a great idea. However, if you're talking about different communities, and they got a little committee, as long as they're fair about it, they don't, what I'm saying is, they may not like somebody in the neighborhood, and they'll
Right.
dog them to death,
Right.
so to speak. So that could be really tricky.
So would we bring their ideas first to the council and run it by before they approach the people?
I
Is
think-
that what you're saying?
What the council.
What the guidelines would be approved by the council.
I believe so.
It has to be strict guidelines that's set up by the council.
Okay, good point.
Not something that just make I don't like their color of their house or whatever.
Right.
So if I'm hearing you, Ms. Scott could put the committee together, you come up with some guidelines, run it by the
Then have
council.
the council approve the guidelines and they can.
Okay, wonderful.
Do we need to make a motion for this?
I think we can just appoint the committee, can't we? Or-
No, I
think
would
we
just,
make a-
I think I would go ahead and start with that kind of consensus and just bring it back when you're ready to formally create the committee and adopt the bylaws for it.
Okay. Great, wonderful idea. Thank you. All right, now we have Ms. Billington from the museum, and they had given us some of the numbers. I don't know how many of you have been to the museum. It's a wonderful asset for our community, but over the years, apparently, they have put a huge, I think that building sold originally for $30,000 to the city, and they put quite a bit of money and time and effort into it, something like almost $84,000 to make it the showcase it is.
Yeah.
Apparently, a couple of years back, they actually redid the performance room, right? And put about, it looks like almost $8,000, a little over $8,000 into that. The thing that's missing there is electricity. We have to bring that up to codes. And so if I'm understanding, they've approached us as a partnership, if we could come up with the electrical cost.
Yeah.
That if it were to be rented, then we could split the cost with the city and whomever. I
For the
think
record, who owns the building?
we
And
do,
who-
the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, if we own a building that is not up to codes, we almost require ourselves to bring it to codes, don't we?
I think you're right. Yeah.
And that's the reason why we were shut down. It didn't meet codes.
Yeah. Just,
And we had spent all that money.
And we're talking about roughly 8,000.
Yeah, and just in supplies for that room and updating, getting the,
well, I did take, because we talked about this, I brought two different electricians just to see what kind of estimates they would come up with. We had Harbor's Electricity and Triple C. These are both local folks. Basically just putting new plugs, 3 plugs on either side, 2 on either end, a conduit that would run under to the stage area, and a new amp box, plus some overhead lighting, either like these or some pin lights that would all be LED. Everything would be LED with dimmers. And also over the exit, which doesn't have proper lighting, there would be a light there. Here's the 2 estimates I got from Mr. Harper, Joey Harper's. I got even 6,000. You can see this, and then from Triple C. Who is that again?
I don't know, I haven't seen them.
Okay, shoot, I'm sorry, the name, but it's a husband and wife team, and that was $7,186,000.
Can I see that?
Sure.
Did you say the first one from Joey was 6,000?
6,000, and it's covering everything they would possibly need to bring it up to codes in there.
If we do something though, we need to redo the lease because the lease doesn't
Right.
give them that. And that was the whole, you were there for all that. That was the whole,
well.
or came in on tail end of it, I
I
guess.
came in on the tail end
Right.
of it, so I'm not.
But we would need to probably redo the lease for that. And I know part of it too was not only the electric, but the the bathroom and the back door.
That door.
The back door that backs up to what is that ward? I think.
Right up here.
And the I think there was like some wheelchair access and stuff like that would all need to be addressed really before. I think we ought to worry about that stuff before we put the electric in, or at least make sure we look at the lease and adjust all that.
And I apologize again. This is kind of my first rodeo in the government sector, so I understand bidding can be differently. I think 6,000 sounds a little high for that amount of work. I know I've done about double that amount for probably a quarter of that before, as far as installing electrical. I don't know if we have a better.
The other one was 7,100.
Well, yeah, and that's just 2 bids. I'm wondering if we can send out a better bidding process just to save more money.
It's under 10,000. Yes, sir.
But that was my question as to what
10.
10 is what
Mm-hmm.
requires competitive bidding, but you can probably do
You
competitive
can,
bidding.
you can choose to do it anytime
Yeah.
you have to.
How did we advertise for the bids?
These actually aren't bids. I just asked 2 people to come in so we'd have an idea. It's just an estimate. And those were the only 2 local people that were told. If you know others locally, we can reach out to them too.
But we may need to get Lynn to look at it and tell us what we need to do.
Yeah.
Make sure it's up to code before we even dump money into electric. I'm all for fixing it up, doing it, but I want to make sure we're not dumping money in something only not be able to use
Yeah,
it in the
because
end.
the electrical, if you fix that, the restroom situation, I thought that was a problem too.
Well,
Right.
That's gonna have to be
I think what they were
addressed
doing was
too,
using-
before it's ever
Yeah, the
used.
museum has restrooms, so it could be that could be, the restrooms in the museum could be.
Right.
This is fixed and it will
Looks like
be,
that includes lighting in
operable.
addition to
Yeah,
just the plugs. So,
Yeah.
No, it's lighting and everything. Overhead lighting,
Whatever is done, if we
dimmers.
open up the public.
If we do it,
everything
if we
like
did
the
it,
ADA as well
just
too,
if
not
we
just
open it up to
electric.
bids.
Right. I
I
think
know
we
we're
need
not
to
required
get
to, but probably help save some money.
Lynn to come out first and tell us what needs to be done
And then put
to
up
make
for
it compliant
bid.
before
Codes are.
we do everything else.
Okay.
Do we
Because-
want to put that in motion then?
I make a motion that we get Lynn McHenry to go out to the museum, to the performance hall, to address any concerns that we may have
I'll second you.
to do.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it's to let Lynn come and
Yes, to evaluate the situation and see what needs to be
and
addressed.
to report back to the
Yes.
council. We'll try to see if we can get him to do that before next month's meeting and put that on the
He's in
agenda.
town on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so.
Okay. Well, okay.
Mayor and the council, we'd like to thank y'all for
Well,
the
thank
use.
you.
Thank you.
What y'all do.
Thanks for all you
For
do.
the use of that building.
Oh, we're glad to have you
Yes.
there.
We,
And we will let
don't know
you-
where we would be without it.
Well, it's a great asset to
Well,
the
thank you.
community.
Thank you. Excuse myself, thank you.
And this will come up on next, we'll have it on next,
All right,
okay,
thank
thank you. Okay, that's the end of our special call meeting. Can I have a motion to
We've
adjourn?
got any other new business we can, I was wanting to make a motion based on just some information I've been finding out.
But no, we can't add any, no, it's a special call, we can't bring any additional, you can bring it on next month if you want to.
Yeah, we can't take action on anything that's not advertised on the agenda.
Can't
Now,
take
if you want to
action.
have, discussion, information purposes, you can, but yeah, you can't be a vote on something that's not on the agenda.
Gotcha. If it's just discussion purposes though, I've just found out, over the past couple of weeks, a lot of information. I just share the information. We don't have to do a vote on it, but, mainly for the public, for the council to hear. It's not anything that's, we don't have to
Would
vote
it
on
be
it.
anything that would come to a vote eventually?
Yeah, and I don't know what y'all's, I don't see anything on the agenda as far as comment from the council. I don't know how you handle that typically. I mean, there's not, it would certainly, there's something that could be allowed if that's
Well,
normal.
we've
but-
always, it's on the special call, this is. I mean,
Yeah, again, the rules are, for a special called meeting, you shouldn't, just like any other,
Well, it would kind of pertain under, what Mr. Warren was in here earlier about, but, we don't have to make any motions on it. It's just, it's basically information regarding these grants and kind of how they've been handled. And it's one of those situations where if you don't know something, you can't address it. And now I know something, so I'm compliant if I don't share information that I found out. If that makes sense. And so I'm just trying to get it out as soon as I can, or, I mean, if you recommend I do it next meeting, I can. It's just, I wanna make sure I don't get told, well, you didn't get this, I wish I would've known this information sooner, if that makes sense.
yeah, and obviously you can get it out through whatever means you would want and speak to it at the next meeting. I just, my only question is, unless you suspend the rules to allow some additional comment, there's not anything on the agenda that would have this, allow for council comment on something.
Gotcha.
But now I see what you're saying, if it was related to what happened, the discussion, how's it agendized here, I guess it's status of the Spring Street sewer line.
It's in relation to that, several grants, just basically it's in relation to a lot of issues that have been taking place that the council is not aware of, that the administration's moving forward without council approval. And we're not, there's a grant I just found about this week that had got canceled. And there's a lot of things happening that I wrote up what I was gonna say, and I can just make it as a statement. But it needs to be public information. I ran on transparency. I wanna keep transparency, and I might not be popular, but I've gotta say what I gotta say.
Yeah, and does your normal agenda have times for just council member comments or board
On the
comments?
regular agenda, we could add something, but this is a special call.
In prior administrations, we always had other new business was included, but it hasn't been included since November.
Well, we have included other new business. Mr.
Not on the
Mr.
agenda, there
Eagle
wasn't
has
a line
brought a lot of new business in. Yeah. What would you like to say, Mr.
I would leave it up to the council to decide if it's
Go ahead.
information.
It's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna hurt my feelings one way or the other. I don't want to bring any emotions or anything like that. I just gonna state some facts for the record for the public to see and read and everything like that. If you guys want me to wait till next meeting, I can wait. It's just one of those
Is it
things.
timely? Is it gonna hurt anything to wait till next meeting?
We're only about 2 weeks away. It
Yeah.
might be a situation where we're better off making that an actual
Or actually
item
gonna take it
on the
in.
agenda.
Okay.
Because
I don't mind waiting. A lot of things happen in 2 weeks. I found out about something last week that happened just between this meeting, you know. So
I understand.
but I'll wait if you guys would rather hear it then. I can wait. If you guys want to hear it now, you can hear it now. It's up to y'all. I'm good either way. I just want to be on the record because I know about it. When I know about something, I'm just trying to share it as fast as possible. But I mean, if we want to take action on it, we would have to wait till next meeting. So
I just wonder if it'd be better if Jerry were here. If
Okay.
it's, and I mean, y'all might feel different.
Yeah,
I mean,
my sources
I want to
are-
hear it all, but if it's,
okay. Well, I'll invite Jerry and I'll invite Dawn out for it next council meeting. I'll read it then. And,
maybe we can make it a true
Okay.
item. You know,
Let's make
if
sure
we
it's on
want.
the.
We'll put it on the agenda. Okay.
I mean, I just want to make sure that
Yeah. Okay.
that
I will-
whatever,
Yeah. Okay.
you know what I mean.
Okay.
Do you want to contact us closest to time to add that as an agenda item, or do you want
Yeah,
to
let's.
make note of it now?
Yeah, go ahead and make note of it now. I like that. Basically, it's just discussion on grants, and then also if we need to, if we can invite Jerry and Dawn out, we can have them answer any questions because they're kind of my source on it. And so, and there are some motions I would like to make, but obviously I can't. So
Would it? Could we do all that in a work session? I think we've talked about trying to do some kind of work session.
And that's something Jerry's recommended too.
Yeah, can we make motions in a work session, or is it the work session?
It has to be.
No, you
No,
can't
we
at a work
discuss.
session, but
Gotcha.
it sounds like
You can
that
discuss,
would
but
have been
it still
helpful
could be
over
on
the
the
last few
agenda
months to
then
kind of keep
to be voted.
things
Yeah.
on track. But
Absolutely.
Right.
And something that's open so that citizens that are concerned about it can show up. And I know it's great that the county insiders showing it and everything, but they can be there to actually respond to it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm for that, especially if we get citizen involvement.
I mean,
Let's-
you good with that?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not, we'll work through it. But
Yeah.
just, you tell
I'll
me.
just make a note. I have some information to share, and I'll
You'll have to
yeah.
let City Hall know and plenty of time to advertise it whenever you
Yeah,
all
yeah.
come to a date.
Okay.
And time and such.
Gotcha. That way we can have citizens out. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Okay.
I'm not trying to not be transparent, is what I'm trying to say. So. All right.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.